got a beef, beans and broccoli recipe for you. It could be broccoli, beans and beef, or broccoli, beef and beans, or any which way you call it. You really only need to pick up 3 things on your way home from work. Almost everything else can be found in the pantry. So we're flavoring it really big and boldly with all of these other pantry staples. Really simple dish. You almost are garnishing with the beef, so it goes quite far, and we're using a beef mince. So beautiful grass-fed beef mince. If you can get a hold of it, all the better. So we're gonna heat up some sesame oil and some peanut oil. Now sesame oil has a really nice flavor and fragrance. So we're actually gonna put a little bit over at the end as well, so that we've got it in sort of 2 layers. And our peanut oil. So we wanna have that sort of simulated breath of the wok, or a little bit of smoke coming off there before we add our beef, so we get a really nice seal on it. So we know that this is going to sizzle, so pour it away from your body. Now we just wanna break that up a little bit. We want caramelization on this. All of that is flavor. So I'm gonna give it a quick stir fry and then just let it sit for a minute while we cut up our veg. So I want to have that almost cooked through before I add anything, because it can take a little bit of cooking. All right, let's cut up our Chinese broccoli. I absolutely want to use the leaves, but I'm gonna add them towards the end because they don't need as much cooking. So I'm gonna cut them off, and then we might just give them a couple of vertical cuts as well. So that will wilt down quite quickly, but these are gonna take a little bit longer cooking time. So we'll give them a few cuts as well. So you could really use any Chinese green. So this is kind of a family meal that you could have on the dinner table in probably just over 10 minutes. All right, so it's releasing some of its juices. So we really want sort of a more caramelized-y, toasty texture. So I'm gonna let that cook a little bit longer, let some of those juices evaporate before we add our next ingredients. So I'm quite happy. Most of the juices have evaporated and we're back to frying again, back to a bit of a stir fry. So we're getting some nice caramelization on that beef. So I'm going to add our garlic and our chili now. So I didn't want to add the garlic too early because it can tend to burn and get a little bit bitter, which is not what we're after for this dish. So we'll stir that through before we add our broccoli stalks and our beans. So you can see it changing color already. Our garlic is crushed, so it doesn't need a lot of cooking time. The more surface area the garlic has, the less time it needs to cook. Okay, so we'll put our beautiful beans in and our broccoli stalks. So all of the parts that are gonna take the longest. Now we're gonna have to be a little bit more gentle as we toss it all through. So we wanna make sure that they've turned vibrant in color so that they're still al dente before we add our sauces, because we don't want it to stew. We still want it to be quite stir fried. This is a good one for youngsters as well, because I doubt they're gonna pick through all of the beef, or it might be a part of the deal that you have to eat your greens to get to the beef. So we just wanna keep that moving so that nothing is burning, so that everything is getting a good amount of heat and color. So I'm gonna add our tamari, our gluten-free soy sauce, and our honey at this point. A little bit of sweetness. It's just sort of started to make some steaming, sizzling noises. So the sounds have changed as we're turning from a stir fry to sort of letting the liquid deglaze the bottom of the pan and all of those crunchy caramelized bits. So I'm gonna put in our leaves now so that they can wilt. So we know that our more heavy duty, our robust stalks and beans, they will have had enough time to cook. So by the time our leaves are just wilted, we can serve this up. I'm gonna take those off the heat now. So we've got our plate, we can start plating this up. So I'd sort of start with the veg, or whatever you can grab first, because we know there's gonna be all of those gnarly, delicious bits of beef at the bottom. So we can sort of topple them over at the end. So if you wanted to, you could serve this on individual plates, but I really love share style food. So we're gonna put it in the center of our table like that. And now this is a little bit more manageable, so we can start to sprinkle over our beef. Alrighty. Tidy it up a little bit. And as I said, I wanted to add just a little bit more of that sesame oil because it is a bit of a seasoning as opposed to a cooking oil necessarily, because the flavor changes. So we want it now for the flavor. We've got some sesame seeds. So adding some more textures, colors, crunch, some crispy shallots. Just always have these sorts of things in the pantry. They've got a long life. They go really far. And then some beautiful, vibrant red chili. And it's chunky enough that if you've got some heat-adverse diners in your family, they can just pick it out. So there we have our beautiful, bountiful beef, beans, and broccoli.